and when we look weak, our adversaries are much more willing to test us. They're more brazen in their attacks, and our allies are less willing to trust
With all
them.
due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
And why is that so?
Because not a single thing he said is accurate.
All right, that was Joe Biden saying it was malarkey that when our adversaries see us this week, they're more willing to test us. Brett, I thought one of the more interesting things came up in the debate on the foreign policy side was the discussion of Iran. And the vice president pushed back very hard, it seemed to me, on the idea that the Iranian nuclear program posed a threat. He mentioned this several times. It seems to me that Mr. Biden was taking the Iranian issue into a kind of a different area than it's been the past 4 years.
Yeah, he defined a very interesting red line, which is, in effect, the Iranians right now, according to the latest reports, are somewhere between 2 and 4 months of having at least the capability to acquire, to enrich uranium to bomb-grade level. Biden seemed to be saying they can get as much of this stuff as they want, but so long as they don't weaponize it, they haven't crossed at least this administration's red line. And then he said something else that was interesting, Dan. He said, we will know when they cross that line, when they start to weaponize. Now, take that into consideration when they're talking about the Benghazi situation, where it took American intelligence 2 weeks to figure out the perfectly obvious fact that this was, in fact, a terrorist attack, and that the video was never the reason why there was a
and that was a much smaller event, which he blamed on an intelligence failure.
Exactly. So on the one hand, you have an intelligence failure over something as relatively minor as what happened in Benghazi. On the other hand, he's telling us we're going to have perfect intelligence to know when the Iranians are going to marry their high-enriched uranium with a weaponization device.
Yeah. Well, I think, I thought by and large Paul Ryan did a decent job in an area that is not one of his specialties.
I think he did so within the constraints of the Romney foreign policy. Where I noticed that I think where Ryan was weakest was, for example, on Syria. Why was he weak on Syria? Because the Romney campaign hasn't really laid out a position that's all that different from what Obama's doing. It's tougher sounding, but it's not tougher acting. I wish Romney had said, we're going to impose a no-fly zone over Syria of the kind we imposed over Bosnia with at no cost to us. That's a real distinction from what this administration is doing.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Brett.